Pauline discourse shaped Protestantism. Now, as we see some of the challenges and the problems with that over-reliance on Paul, in the way that some people can feel like Paul trumps Jesus, people have rightly said, wait, we're not comfortable with that. And in going back to the Gospels, have then started to interpret them in ways that seem to potentially pit the Gospels against Paul. Take some of the ways Paul's been read and have a really strong focus on that justification is by faith alone and not the works of the law. So in Protestant shorthand, justification is by faith alone, not works. There's the fundamental Pauline argument that shapes the gospel. So that somebody like Martin Luther says, the doctrine of justification is the article on which the church stands or falls. Okay, now what do you do with Jesus? The sheep and the goats, for instance. It's saying, well, why are the sheep called to enter into the rest while the goats are sent away? It's because of the things that they did. You saw me naked and clothed me. You saw me hungry, gave me something to eat. You saw me thirsty, gave me something to drink. I was in prison, you visited me. And there can feel like there's this disconnect. And it's not just Jesus. I mean, in fact, every single passage in the New Testament, with no exception, where the explicit context is judgment, the basis for the judgment is deeds.
Part of the move of this conversation is, okay, we've been placing Jesus back in his context. In the same way, how is Paul being placed back in his context? And then I think the fact that that is happening with church planters and leaders who are likewise trying to re-engage their context in a deep, specific, particular way, and not by the propagation of models or techniques or different ways that church has been done, I think is a really kind of fun intersection of a lot of different kinds of dynamics going on. As we think about how we do a conference, often the arc of some of them have been that practitioners are largely not interested in theology, that they want kind of on-the-ground practical means to make things work in the context of their congregations. At the same time, academics have not been interested in how things work on the ground. Mm-hmm. And so I think the idea of creating another kind of space that allows for a very fertile interaction between people who are trying to press out the lived realities of some of these texts in a specific context, and academics who have the privilege and the ability and the luxury for the sake of the church to go deep into a text is a really nice kind of cross-pollination of disciplines that allow for, I think, a great deal of life and, like I said, fertility and hopefully an engaged imagination.
I'd also like to say on behalf of the academic types, we have a lot to learn from these engagements ourselves. And one of the things that I found most helpful about the emerging church conversation is it has always been about partnership between thinkers and practitioners and realizing that we need each other.